Oh my goodness. Thank you for saying that. This entire time I've been talking like a fool. Was my mic off? So let me start over. Thank you so much for saying that, actually. I appreciate it tremendously because you just saved my broadcast. I would have done the whole thing sounding like an idiot. So let me back up and say, my name is Sherry St. Marie. I am a broker associate with eXp Realty. I can't believe I did that. I actually have never done that in a broadcast before, and I can't clip it off. So anyway, here we are. This is the situation. I have been a licensed real estate broker, and I choose to broker through eXp. So I'm technically a broker associate for them in multiple states. I'm a certified international property specialist. I've been doing this over 20 years. I have a master's degree in adult education. I care a lot about street smart education and helping the public. What I want to share with you right here and why it says code of ethics is I am very proud to be also a member of the National Association of Realtors. I am also a member of South Central Wisconsin's Realtors. I am also a member of Naples Area Board of Realtors. I want to do that because I strongly believe in the ethics and what we're doing there and how that makes us even higher and stronger than licensing in terms of how we agree to cooperate with each other and with ourselves and with the public. But why I need to start with this piece right here is that is also why I can't name any company names today. So you saw the promotion of, I know how badly you want it, meaning some of these new products because prices have gotten to be so difficult. However, I just want you to be educated. I just want you to hear a little bit from me of stories, which I can say as an educator, and I just will not be sharing companies or lending businesses or anything like that because I can't. Okay, so I just needed to start with that caveat, and I have done that. So here we go. Again, I have this master's in education. So if you watch me, a lot of what I do on all different platforms is I do lives, and I love all different topics and all different subjects. I do this for free for you. So I am not selling you anything today. And in fact, I've been doing this a very long time and it costs me money. So I pay for production. I pay for, StreamYard and other things, which I'm happy to do. My point is just this. I care enough that I want to pay to educate you. It's up to you whether you care to take the education and do anything with it. And so that's the part that I just shared to begin with so that you understand. So here's what I want to talk to you about. And again, a lot of people won't take the time to do this in the general public. It is important. If you watched my description of this live, you can see I said quite a few things because I care tremendously about fair housing. I always have. I come from an incredibly challenged background. Trailer parks, I can call it that. It's nicely called mobile homes now, but guess what? When you've lived there, it's not mobile. Most people can't pay to move their trailer if they had to, or if it was flooding, or if there was a fire. It's too expensive. So we nicely call it a mobile home today. And that's trying to be more socially, sensitive, which is great, or empathetic. However, I was in one, so I'm just going to call it a trailer park as that's what it was back in the, late 60s, early 70s. What I'm going to talk to you about is history for a minute and the reason we can't change history. So I do understand all the social unrest. I'm a minority myself, technically. I get it. All of the different things that we are trying to change so they don't sound exactly the same or erase out of history, what they are doing is not allowing us to remember what happened badly so we don't do it again. Even if it was horrendous and awful and shouldn't have happened, it helps us know, oh, okay, here's the deal. So I'm going to take you back if you are not old enough, or some of you remember and you forget and you're going to get in a jam again. In 2003 to 2008, there were all these zero down interest loans. That's where a lot of difficulty got into. Okay. I'm going to tell you in a minute. Go watch the documentaries. Here's why. They were creating strategies that just flooded the real estate market to make things keep happening, to make people keep buying so that people were making money and fees were coming in and all these things were happening. That was lovely. Okay. My own self as a realtor, I made a choice when all of those zero downs were going, and I get a chance to do this as a business owner. I did not do a single one of them, not one. I chose that my own self with my own ethics. If somebody wanted to, fabulous. I'm going to just offer somebody else, not even take a referral for doing so, and not be in the practice, because that's just how I felt about them. And again, realtors do have a right to create their own business. We need to cooperate fairly, but in that category, nobody can make me do a zero down, right? So I didn't. And I didn't because I had this intuition and I had this concern, basically as a mother, of like, I don't know how all of this is going to go. Okay. So I didn't participate in those things. And then in 2009, when all of the bank repossessions happened, when I walked into a showing and opened the door, and there were a very large group of people with suitcases and whatnot, that I'll just say were squatters, so I don't just say too much about the particular situation. I opened the door, and those were not the people that were supposed to be in there. The seller was out of state. They had no clue their house had been inhabited by over 20 people, right? And I'm not able to communicate because we spoke a different language to be able to say anything to the poor people who are scared, but you're in somebody else's home also. And then I have a buyer who I'm responsible for at that minute, even safety. In what do we do and how do we handle this? That progressed further to being able to have all these situations where then sellers were calling me and saying, how do we get this house sold so that at least we're not so short in what we owe the bank back in the short sale or a complete loss in a foreclosure, right? So I did participate, and so did one of my very good girlfriends who's incredibly successful in real estate. She was in another state. I am down in Wisconsin. I did multiple sales of bank-owned property or short sale situations to try to help the sellers. And I packed and I cleaned and I cried and I did all those things with the people. Over 300 calls to the bank to get something closed. Takes 9 months for a closing. Why I share all that with you is because I'm not a realtor who didn't give a shit. I'm just going to say that to you, okay? And I'm not going to say anybody who gets into any of these situations that it's a zero down. If you choose to do that, that's going to happen to you. I'm just going to explain to people who don't know the vulnerable people in a situation that do not have a decent enough amount down. That also means usually that if you have a hiccup, you can't survive it. That's what I'm concerned about. Okay. So this is what happens. It's upsetting to me, particularly just as a human being, as a humanist, I have been there, with my people and situations. That's who gets taken advantage of. That's who the target gets put towards. And so there's where my care and concern comes. So let me check you in the chat. Hey, Rick, how are you up in Canada? Thank you so much. I appreciate you showing up. Well, this is too funny. Philip shows up to give himself a little testimonial for his business. That's fabulous, Philip. This is what I want to help you with in a nice, great way, because a lot of real estate is exciting. A lot of things are really good. But again, it does me no good to have intelligence and not share it with you. Okay. So you have a responsibility to educate yourself. This is not just these first-time buyers. So I am not just talking to the millennials and the Zs. Okay. You can think I do, but I also know a whole lot of people that are in their 60s and later who have had situations where they maybe for whatever reason of life, right? Because we've been through hurricanes and everything. They are trying to get back into a home or a situation, or they're trying to get investment properties. And they think, oh, isn't this a fabulous opportunity? I'll get into an investment property. Maybe, but you just need to think these things through. This comment I have up on here of you have to take responsibility and educate yourself. I will say that to everybody across the board, no matter who you are, if you're investing, if you're doing commercial, if you're doing residential, if it's your first time, if it's a vacation property, I would say this to everybody. And it's the biggest thing I'd like to help you out. Another example of this, very adult people bought homes down in Florida, right? I almost always, if I'm on the buy side, I'm working as a buyer agent because I like to be able to advise my clients. You can't do that if it's a customer. If it's a customer, you are not allowed to do that. So I often work as a buyer agent. However, when I'm a buyer agent, that does not ever mean that you don't have to do your own due diligence, that you are not responsible, that it can be whatever. Oh, Sherry said something about that, but I don't know. And believe me, after the hurricane, a bunch of us realtors got blamed for things that were 110% the buyer's responsibility. It's just the way the world swings. And so I share that just to remind everybody. Okay. Here's the thing. I know how bad you want it. So you can look at me and say, she can't possibly understand. She can't possibly understand, at this age or stage or whatever. It's so completely not true. Like I told you, I started off life in a trailer park, moved up to a mobile home, moved back to a trailer park, multiple rentals, right? And I wanted that first home so badly. I would almost do anything. And in fact, I'll tell you, I accidentally bought my first house. And I wrote an offer with my husband at the time, and we did not have a down payment. Do not do that. Do not do that. I sold Disney videos and moratoriums. I sold antique furniture. I did everything I needed to do so that we had our down payment on time. Okay. Don't do it that way. But anyhow, that got me into real estate. And I was thankful. And I appreciate everything that, everybody that helped me out to do that. But I should have been more responsible. And so I can tell you the story this way now. Right. And so I think that's just an important piece always for any of us. This is what I want you to do. If you are sitting here thinking, gosh, we saw even some of them were particular targeted marketing, which is really tough for me. So there were particular companies that marketed even to particular ethnicities, I will say, because I'm a big advocate of fair housing, of particular ethnicities could have an additional benefit or less down. Let's help you. That's how people were helped into trouble last time. So I personally do not feel, I'm speaking myself, not my realty company, that that is the way to help people that have been challenged before in real estate unfairly, being able to own real estate. That is the situation, because it puts them at just a way too thin situation and a very easily vulnerability to lose that home that they live in, that they sleep in, that they need to be their safe haven. So I do highly encourage you to go watch the documentaries, even if you just are not even anybody in any of these categories, but you just want to educate yourself, right, of where we've been and what we don't want to do again. So here's our current market, right? We are in 2003. We will have a situation across a lot of the United States and perhaps the world where real estate prices have moved so fast, it's hard to save fast enough to catch up with it, right? And I completely understand that. So I do understand the balance between, I don't want to take so much time and so much years to get such a down payment that the prices are going up faster than I'll be able to catch up into it. Okay. So I do understand that. But there has to be kind of this balance between, is it a safe, good, okay thing for me to do? So I am just showing understanding and empathy that it is, the market has gotten a little bit more difficult. The current market, why it's harder than it was before, is there are way too many huge pooling funds of real estate, buying real estate. That's what's going on. So what has changed from 2008, 2009 are there are larger companies buying tons of single family homes, building certain things that can't be owned, right, in real estate. We didn't used to have so much of this. We had some of it, but we have a lot of it now. And so what happens is when they are bigger and they are pooled together, they are stronger. That's just what happens. So we find ourselves in this market that you just need to understand that and decide for yourself, where am I able to get an opportunity? For my own self, when I'm able to get in, I want to get in. When I've got enough that I will not fall on my ass if I get a hiccup, lose a job or something. That's kind of my individual thinking about some of these things. It's an exciting real estate market in the fact that there's a very strong demand for real estate. I am thankful that the market has slowed down and prices have settled down in a lot of places because they were too out of control. They were too out of control. And what we want is that an asset is worth what it is. That's when real estate is best, when it's a balanced market and a good situation for most people that are entering into it. So people that have been challenged. So that would be people that either have had heartbreak, medical, something like that, that have made it more difficult for you to get into housing or that you lost housing. And I also want to bring up the careers of the heart, because that was me. I was a teacher, right? I did not get paid to a capacity that would really probably easily help me own a home. I remember I couldn't live in the town that I first started teaching in or second started teaching in, I had to move a half hour away, drive into school, because I couldn't do it. Even married, I couldn't do it at the time. And that there are people that are working in careers of the heart, our hometown heroes, right? Our veterans, all kinds of different areas that they may not be paid commensurate to what they're contributing to the world or to our dynamics. And so it doesn't even mean they've had heartache. It's just they chose a career where the golden paycheck was more important to them than the paycheck. And then they sacrifice themselves. Lots of people do that. I've done that a ton in my life. And so I want to add those people in here. But those are also the same people that can gain the most, right? They have the best shot usually in being able to have real estate be a way that they can really gain wealth or gain equity. So I don't want anybody to get discouraged in here to think, okay, forget it, I'm not doing it, or it's so tough right now. No, what you're going to do is educate yourself, keep working hard, look for multiple different opportunities, right? Until you're in a position that you feel like you can safely enter. That's all. So I want to encourage you, because I can even tell you personally where my greatest gains have come for sure has been in real estate. My entire life, that's been the number one place, regardless of, married, single, whatever was the situation. And so I definitely want to keep encouraging people. So I'm going to just move this down one second. This is what's interesting about real estate, that this is perhaps some of the most innovative times in real estate, being able to have different ways to be able to enter, to gain equity, to take advantage of different ways to gain wealth in real estate, to invest, to not necessarily just have your personal home, or maybe even use your personal home, right? With Airbnb, VRBO. A lot of I, for years and years, was a super host with Airbnb. Appreciate it tremendously. That is what allowed me, with 3 kids in college, to be able to keep my house in Wisconsin, also have something down here, fly back and forth, keep operating opposite of what I needed to do to meet my obligations of living where I was supposed to be living, getting the kids through school, running a business during COVID. And all of those things. And I couldn't have done it without that opportunity. And so I will be the biggest to say to you, some of the biggest economic gainers through the recession, the COVID situation and pandemic, was women with Airbnb. Verbal, I just happen to do Airbnb, so it's whichever. They had some of their greatest wealth gain from women operating hospitality, right? Through using their homes as a smart, proper operator, which I was, to gain a better situation for yourself. So part of this is interesting. Then here comes a Bitcoin situation, right? Where a lot of people feel like, oh my gosh, that's the devil. Other people feel like this is an amazing opportunity. There are plenty of people who have bought through Bitcoin and actually purchased real estate. I actually am in a brokerage where they do allow that. Obviously, it needs to be a seller and a buyer who want to do that way. It's a little bit more of a strategic negotiations and situations. We have ways that through title companies that are converting Bitcoin into US dollars if they're buying here. But those are things that people need to learn and to understand if you're going to use that means. And how might you, even using Bitcoin, gain more than what was your purchase price, depending on what the Bitcoin was the day you had to cash in, or you lose, right? And so it is just a means that you need to, again, be a little bit more educated. You need to work with usually, and licensed people who know what they're doing. Those kind of things make a huge difference. Now, I will tell you, we have, again, in the same category, the innovation. All right, REITs. So it's real estate owned pooled funds of money, as an example. That can be an amazing way for you to put in lesser dollars of money of your own to be able to invest with other people. There are also REITs that are specific to certain areas. So it might be one that's designated just for vacation homes, and that's what you're investing in as a group of people, okay? There are others that are for women, to teach women how to invest in real estate. And you get into that so that you don't have the everyday ownership and learning of, how do I operate this, and should we sell or should we buy, or what's that individual piece of property, and do we all agree with it or not? It is a way that can be a little bit more interesting, perhaps. But again, you need to know what you're doing. The other thing that's happening is, if you watch anything at all, educate yourself on YouTube. Go to TikTok and search something, Google something, right? You can see there are also large companies that are becoming trillion-dollar giants that are investing in real estate and more, both residentially, commercially, and also just companies across the US, that they are pooling these trillions of dollars of money into an investment fund. If it's their company, they get to do what they want to do, right? When you sign a document, what I want you to do, whether it's an offer to purchase, whether it's a contract to buy your home, I want you to read it. I want you to do this and read it, whether it's an electronic document I'm sending you or somebody else, and understand legally what it is you're saying. With some of these larger pooled real estate funds, you do not get a say because you can't have that many people having any say. That makes sense. But you need to also understand if they choose to completely pull out of an area and tons of money is lost, which that company can write off their books, but you may or may not check in a CPA. It may matter to you. If they decide to completely switch the strategy from single individual family ownership to international instead, you don't get a say. I highly doubt you get a say. Those are the things you just need to understand in what you're doing. I'm going to explain to you something, and that would be this idea of a piece of paper. Your house can be gone. Okay. So sorry, I should have moved that ahead right now. I'm going to move on to this. The equity in your home, right? So you get to buy this home, and maybe it's the one that you personally are living in. I feel like that's a little bit different for rules. For me personally, that's different. I'm not going to risk it very much. I mean, I'll risk it enough for an Airbnb. I was, but that's about where I personally stop for my own self. And I'm not telling you to have that strategy. But what happens is you develop equity in your home, and there's something that's as simple as a piece of paper. That's called a quit claim. People think it is quick claim. It is quit claim. It is one simple document that can be presented to you by anybody. Could be a realtor, could be Bob, the guy knocking on doors down the street, could be anybody because you want to invest in something. And all you have to do on the quit claim deed is sign your name. You no longer are claiming to own that home. Whoever you signed that over to now owns your house. It can be sometimes that simple and that dangerous. There are scammers that will try to get you to sign a quit claim deed. And a lot of times people don't necessarily understand what they are doing or what they are signing. This can happen to the elderly. This can happen to young people. This can happen to people that are in a tough situation and they desperately need money to be able to take care of their family or whatever it is. So you need to understand it can be that simple. Some of these giant real estate fund groups are figuring out, gosh, we could come up with a concept where you don't have to sell your house. You can live in it. We don't need you to take a loan on it or anything, so you won't owe anything. But just sign this little piece of equity away to me, the giant real estate fund. We're just going to take that much of your equity out of your house and put it into our giant fund for you. That's so nice. Gosh, I didn't have to sell my house. I still get to sleep here. I've got money invested, but all I had to do really was just a piece of paper signature. That's so fabulous. But again, what I want you to understand is you perhaps later down the road, if that company or business makes whatever decisions for you in that large fund, you have to live with it. And there's nothing you can do. That's the part that is perhaps a little bit of a heads up to everybody as they think about what this is. Now, is there ever a place for it? Maybe. And maybe it's on an investment property if you should decide, you don't mind risking it because you might gain big. That could be cool. But you might lose big too, and you might lose the property. And then guess who the giant real estate fund is, who owns tons of single family homes? Because I highly doubt they will be offering that to condos that also have high maintenance fees and a bunch of rules. Do you see where the thing is going? Because then perhaps also that huge fund gets even more single family homes that they've handpicked around the designated area or countries. These are the things that I want to help people understand, pay attention to in real estate. Again, a lot of this is exciting. because we like to be able to have these different products coming into the real estate market for us and opportunities that we can have. We just want to make sure, again, that we are being super educated about it. So it's an incredible industry. It's exciting. I'm having more fun 20 some years in. I've enjoyed it the whole way along, but I'm having the most fun right now. I think that it's an incredibly diverse and interesting. You've seen me improving properties myself, flipping furniture that goes into it, staging, selling, all of those kind of things. I plan to get even more involved than what I have been before, because now I have the freedom where I can, live wherever I need to live. I can move, every 2 years if I would like to, for the in the United States, the gain of my primary residence being able to tax shelter some profit. So there is an incredible, exciting opportunity. I'm just asking you again to educate yourself. Talk with real estate professionals, lending professionals. I want to bring up just one other point, and that was the part about private money. And this is the piece. Private money can be wonderful. Private money would be an example of you getting a private mortgage. What I want to make sure you understand is same exact thing of the things I've talked about, but also private lending, if they're giving you a private mortgage that is, they do less than four or less a year, they don't have to have a license. And when they do that, they also can charge you any interest rate they want to. And if you have any difficulty with them, when you buy that home and have that private mortgage from an unlicensed person, you don't get to go to your state where the laws and regulations are, which are still a thing, but the agency set up to go after the people that are violating laws or any of those things are for licensed people. You would have to go get your own lawyer. Most people that set themselves up in a private, not always, but the people that are desperate and maybe the bank loan doesn't work for them, so then they go to private, you need to pay for your own private lawyer, and most people aren't able to afford that. And so that becomes a little bit different situation where some of these things you just need to understand. Do you have the sophistication? And I don't mean that rudely, because you can learn at the library, to be able to handle some of these things. And again, most realtors or lenders don't explain these things to you. When could a private loan be great for you on a mortgage? It could possibly be good for you if it is a legal good situation. I would have an attorney look over it for you. Even if it's family, that can sometimes down the road screw you terribly because you think your family would never do that to you, but I've seen it happen. And so I share these things with you, again, not to discourage you. Sometimes it gets you a little better fire in your belly. And I like that, where you just motivate a little bit more to ask more questions, read more documents, look and see. And again, I will take advantage of opportunities. I just want to make sure they're smart, safe, good, and ethical, and not going to land me in a jam afterwards. Thanks for joining me today, everybody.